For a true global picture of the latest thinking in what's next for global production, our guest today is the perfect guy to ask. For over 27 years, he's been president of one of the premier global content companies. He's been head of the AICP, and he still plays a huge role there. And to top it off, he's entering his second year as the chairman CEO of the Television Academy. Who else could it be but Frank Scherma? Hi, Frank. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Bob? Good to
Uh,
talk to you, buddy.
I'm good. Good to see you, man. First, Frank, how are you and your family through all this? And how are you and your wife dealing with the fact that you've been home for 6 weeks, which you've probably never been home for 6 weeks in your entire life?
You're absolutely right. I'm dealing with it okay. I'm missing a lot of the nights. I'm missing meetings and dinners and things like that. I think she's, I sort of hide in this office most of the day and then come out around 6:30 and say, "Hey, honey, I'm home. What's for dinner?" But, we've had dinner together for 50 nights in a row, which we have never done in the 32 years we've been together.
Well,
So
I'm glad you guys are doing well. Your kids are well. Are they in New
kids
York?
are all good. They're on the East Coast. They're all on the East Coast. They're all working, knock on wood, in, most of them working on their computers, but getting paid for it. So
Right.
that's all good stuff. So, they're good. They're just trying to figure out when to go back to New York City.
So, Frank, let me ask you some things about production. I mean, you are the guy to ask because you're probably talking about it with so many people on so many levels. Um, First, in early March, were you guys in the middle of stuff as a company? I'm sure you had a bunch of projects going on. Uh, what happened? Were you able to get everybody home safe? Were anything shut down by governments? Is everything straight
Well,
ahead? Or
we had a broad range of stuff going on. We had a bunch of commercials going on that all had to get postponed. I think out of all of them, only one really canceled. The rest of them postponed for when we all come back, whenever that is, which we hope is sooner than later. We also had a lot of entertainment projects that we were, finished shooting. So we were big into the post-production of it all. And luckily, even before we were staying at home, our post-production team figured we better be smart about this and figure out and make sure we can all work remotely. We had to make sure that we could finish this stuff at the high quality that we always do, but not do it, with everybody in the same room.
right?
So luckily they were smart enough to set that up. And so we had that going on. We had some live events that, of course, got postponed or, held off until, we can all come together again. But we were able to get everybody home, everybody safe, everybody quarantined. And luckily, everybody's doing well.
Well, that's great to hear. So, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing. I called you just randomly like 3 weeks ago, and you answered the phone, and you said, "Well, yeah, we're working." What do we? So, tell me what you guys have been doing. If as far as uh, more commercial projects than anything, if any.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how we're doing some of these projects because, as you know, you guys make us sign about 1,000 NDAs these days, and I actually pay attention to them, as you know, because I cross them out so many times. But I do actually, when I sign them, I hold true to them. So I won't mention brands, but I'll mention the types of things that we're doing. So
That's great.
yeah, so of course we're doing stuff remotely where we have a talent or a celebrity or somebody in their space that we're either delivering a certain amount of camera and sort of teleprompter kind of Interrotron kind of pieces with the director being in their own space and directing the talent. And most of the time it's one-on-one talent that are doing something like that. That's one thing that we're doing. We have a whole bunch of directors and DPs that I call part of our extended family that we work with a lot, that we know, and of course our directors are part of our family. And we have put together all the kids and all the homes that they live at, because that's another thing that we're doing. It's like, okay, we need to shoot these kids having a good time in their backyard, with a lot of this work that's out there that all feels too similar to me. I'm sure you saw that piece that went around town,
What is
this
brand?
pandemic, this pandemic. Oh,
Yeah.
we're all in this together. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
So there was, the ability to do work like that for brands and be able to put that together. The other thing that we did, we noticed, of course, how many brands were dealing with stock footage. And, we've put together a group of researchers because of our entertainment documentary division that does this in a different way than what I'd call the traditional commercial way. So, like when we did the Nina Simone film, we found footage that no one knew existed because our researchers tracked down the actual studio that had shot things on her and found out that they had film that had never been digitized. So we paid to get it digitized so that we could use it. So we've taken those same people who are around and put them with agencies and brands who are looking for stock footage that may not be the traditional normal stock footage. So we've been helping them put together spots while people are trying to figure out, when are we all going to come back and shoot. The other thing that we're dealing with is we haven't done it yet, although it looks like we're about to, but we have crews around the world where we would actually be here in LA with our director, our DP, maybe our production designer, who would be working with local crews in foreign countries, casting people from those countries. So again, depending on, what the client is looking for, we can do a lot of that. And the director is working here in the States with big crews down there. Of course, we're not using Zoom, but there's a lot of technology that's out there that allows us to hook the cameras up to these technology that would be here. So we'll have our director, our DP, looking at the actual camera, what it's shooting, discussing it with the local DP, our DP talking to the DP there, saying, okay, I need you to put lights over here. I need you to put a flat over here. I need you to do that, while the director is talking to talent and putting stuff together in that way.
Clearly, these are simpler shoots. And does it slow you down on a simpler shoot, or is it kind of, part of the process?
No doubt. Everything is going to slow down when we come back. There's no doubt about it. We're going to come back to protocols of safety beyond just what I'm talking about in terms of how we're looking at things, on a virtual level.
Right.
But we're going to come back and everything's going to take a little more time.
Well, a lot of people are talking about that remote work like this could be a big thing, obviously saving a lot of transportation costs for, let's keep it to advertising, for agencies and for clients, and which could be viewed both as a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing, and you don't have 15, 18, 20 people in Video Village, but the bad thing is you might not get representation on set, and again, slow it down exponentially.
Yeah.
But, or I could cut both ways depending on your perspective. Do you have a perspective on that, and how it could be used well if people choose not to travel for the rest of the year?
Well, I would have to say, Bob, because I've been doing this almost as long as you've been doing this.
I think longer, Frank, but we won't argue it.
I would love to see this go back to how we used to do this, when we had a producer, an art director, and a writer, and maybe one account person on the set. And it didn't become 20 people in Video Village, because the reality is when we go back, we can't have that many people in the beginning. So people shouldn't be traveling that many people, because that slows us down, whether we're sitting doing it virtually or whether we're not, because there's 20 people sitting around trying to make decisions. There has to be a certain level of trust going back to the creators that they're going to deliver for their brands.
Right.
And I'm hoping that this time, because a lot of decisions are being made quickly, a lot of things are being done smart, the creatives are coming up with stuff, they're working with people that they trust, and they're delivering. And if we can keep that process going, I think that that's where we're going to have to go back to, so that first of all, we'll have to have less people on a set. Sometimes we've had, what we're talking about going back to is maybe 20 people to start. That could be all the agency and the client based on a lot of shoots, and then if I have to keep them 6 feet apart from each other as well, I'm going to need a gigantic tent to put people in. So, I think people are not, I think people will get back to traveling as long as our protocols are in shape correctly, as long as the airlines feel safe, and as long as how we're addressing things on set are safe, both for our crews, for our talent, because the last thing we want to do is come back too quick and people get sick and then everything implodes.
In the short term, I've been talking to a couple of people globally, and a lot of the measures and a lot of the things you say are being echoed by other people. There seems to be a great sense of responsibility by smart people who are starting to envision exactly how this is going to go. A lot of people are saying the same things about, obviously safety is number one, temperature checks, COVID testing, if it's available, sanitizing scenes on set, changes in catering, all that stuff. But in a bigger sense, scaling things back. And obviously you've had to talk to IA, DGA, SAG about, things that the production business wants to implement and put into place. And do you find that they're cooperative? I'm sure it's like moving a mountain, but do you find they're cooperating and they understand that they want to get their people back to work, or is there still some of the old horse trading going on?
No, I think everybody wants to get everybody back to work. I think everybody's trying to come up with protocols that everybody is comfortable with. I know the DGA, the IA, Teamsters, they want their folks working. And I think everybody understands that it's going to have to come out a bit smaller than what we're used to. And when it gets to be a little bit bigger, I read something the other day that put it in an easy way to understand. But as you know, there's all these intimacy people now that deal with movies and TV. And when there's something intimate going on, there's only the people that are necessary in that room. And I think that's what's going to happen to us a lot of times when we're shooting.
Good point.
So we're going to have our camera guys come in, set up the camera, look at the thing, and then get out. And our lighting people are going to come in. It's going to take longer. It's going to take some more time, but it's going to be safer at first.
And, two of the big words I hear a lot, and I'm sure you think about a lot, are insurance and liability. What's going to happen with that? How are we ensuring the health of people the way we always do? Whose responsibility is that? The union's understanding that their health plans could be affected. I mean, it has a lot of ramifications that I couldn't even begin to, frankly, to understand the way you have, because you've been involved in those things.
I mean, look, from an insurance point of view, I can guarantee it's going to get more expensive. I can guarantee when everybody is re-upping their insurance, there are going to be new exclusions that there are going to be, well, we don't cover this and we don't cover this. I doubt very much if they are going to cover people that are sick. I know that there have been conversations, not that I've had these conversations, but I heard where they want people, some of the studios were talking about wanting people to sign a waiver if they took the job. And
yeah.
That's not right. How do you, what you're going to take this waiver, and say, okay, if I get sick, it's not your fault. Then you're dealing with, from an insurance point of view, you're dealing with negligence versus gross negligence. which are two very different things. So how do you define?
Wouldn't the studio or the advertiser or whoever counter with, well, you put yourself in peril. It's your choice to do this or not do this. I mean, not that it's a way that I would want to operate, but I would see that people could do that.
Yeah, I'm sure people could try to do that, but I doubt the unions would say, okay, that's okay. You know, you know, look, look. I think the best thing that would happen, of course, is if we can do this testing the way they're talking about as quickly as possible. This new test they were talking about just the other day, which was similar to a pregnancy test, only you don't pee on it, you spit on it. But that's how quick you find out. And if boom, just like we all on a lot of shoots, we have security things and you get your badge and you get your thing here, go spit on this, you're good. Look, everybody that's there wants to know they're safe. So there are certain rights that we have to figure out, what rights that, civil rights that people have. But I think the biggest thing is that people want to know they're working with people that are safe. And how are we going to do that? Yeah, we all know we're going to have Purell stations and washing stations, and we're going to be wiping everything down every night. And, people are going to have gloves and people are going to have masks. And we know that. But we still need to know that the people that are there, hopefully won't get somebody else infected. But from insurance, a lot of agencies have come to me and said, so if we shoot in Sweden, will the insurance company cover us? I'm like, well, first of all, it's your insurance. But I'll tell you from my point of view, they will not cover it if the government shuts it down. So the client needs to take that risk if they want to take that risk. Because when you look right now at Sweden and Denmark, right now Sweden hasn't stopped shooting. And it seems that they've leveled off. I have a director in Sweden and he's been working. He's ready to travel. He sent me a picture of him and his family and a bunch of friends at the beginning of spring, all outside restaurant having beers to celebrate spring. So, we're all in a social experiment. Which social experiment actually works the best? Nobody has a clue. Talk to me in a year and we'll know which one was the smart one.
Starting with global work, what are the criteria for you as a company owner to where, one, you're willing to let your local companies do remote work and understand what the ramifications are of that if something goes south or doesn't go south, and two, what are you going to have to see where you feel good putting your people on a plane to different markets? And let's not get specific about markets, but I want to know what you think about. Yeah. What's going to be sacrificed for you and your partner, John Cameron? What are you going to have to show you?
It's a conversation that we have weekly when, we're not, a lot of the stuff we do involves travel, whether it's domestic or whether it's international, and to put people on planes. I have some directors that are like, just like you, I'm ready. I can go, I'll go to some of these, you tell me which place it is and I'll go. If you look at, China and Korea, they might be safer than New York right now. I don't know.
Shanghai could be the safest place to shoot. Who knows?
Right. And Korea is shooting all the time.
Right.
Although they've had, issues as well as all of them have. Sweden hasn't stopped shooting. Denmark is starting to shoot. You're having Uruguay that's shooting. You're having the South America countries that are starting to open up.
But again, what do you and John have to see? What do you know at this point? Have you said, what, we have to see that the government's open and they've done this and the local guys, can you qualify it at this point, or is it too soon?
Well, I think it's probably too soon. I think a lot of it, as everybody keeps going back to, is going to be about testing and how much testing can be done.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some of those pictures of people getting on planes, and now the airlines are saying, okay, you have to wear a mask. You can't not. People were just, on the plane with no masks. And, not sitting that far apart from each other. And it's like, okay, that has to change.
Have we learned nothing from the cruise lines? I mean, seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're in a tin can that's gonna, although they say they have HEPA filters, and somebody sneezes, it's not just going through the HEPA filter.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem that you have is people don't know that they can give it to someone because they're asymptomatic, or they had it and they have the antibodies, but does that mean that they could give it to somebody? I don't think there's been enough testing of that to know. I think the first thing that people are going to be willing to do are travel a little bit more domestically, depending upon what goes on with, like, what's going on right now with Texas and Georgia opening up, and seeing how quickly people either get sick or don't get sick. We had an agency call us last week saying, "Can we go shoot in Atlanta in 2 weeks?" It's like, no, we're not doing. We're not putting people at risk yet. We have to mitigate the risks as best as we possibly can. Because
it almost seems like it's too soon to tell on any level, not on any level, but on a domestic level, where it's going. I mean, clearly we're the leader in infection and in deaths. And I think we'll be one of the later countries to open up as far as, putting people on planes and going here and going there. But let's talk about the countries that are doing it right. Obviously, you said Sweden's open. South Korea was on the top of it, and they have the testing thing down really well. Uh, you mentioned in a text the other day about Uruguay, and I did some research, and I spoke to someone today who has a company there, and they've very low infection rate, very low, small country, very low infection rate, very small number of deaths. Tragic that it's 15, but a small number of deaths. So will these will, I think, will become viable centers, not only for cost, but in the short term as, hey, you got a pretty good chance here.
yes,
Yeah.
I think when you start looking at what the statistics are, the key for that is knowing that the statistics that we're getting are real.
Good point. Absolutely.
Do we really know what the statistics from China are? Or, we seem to know what they are from Sweden because, they're showing that people are dying, people are getting sick, but at the same rate of the people who shut down. And now they look like they've hit that bell curve. We'll see.
Let me hit you with one or two quick questions about the entertainment side. It's not my area of specialty, but certainly, people want to know. Obviously, the demand for content was bigger before, for television content, was bigger before the pandemic started, but now it's got to be enormous. I'm sure that I don't have any statistics, but it seems to be that the streaming services have probably got more new viewers and everything. I don't know what the television ratings are, but people are going to want new content really soon. And obviously there's going to be some lag time. How is that going to evolve? I mean, Saturday Night Live obviously can do that. Show's formatted to do things from people's homes, and obviously news and the night talk shows. Yeah, that can all be done from home. But what about episodic? What about movie making? What about documentaries? You guys do a lot of documentaries. How's that all going to come back together?
Well, I think right now a lot of the streamers and a lot of the folks had already sort of bought. When I say bought, they bought shows, not shows that had been produced, but ideas for shows that they were going to go forward with.
Right.
I think once things start to open up, they'll get going. I think scripted is going to take longer than non-scripted, just because of the nature of scripted television. It just, you got to get your writers' room together. You got to get your writers writing everything. You have that. You have to get your cast. Whereas non-scripted, I think, will move quicker. And I also think non-scripted will move quicker because you can have smaller crews. for non-scripted. So I think that's how some of that stuff is going to open up, to fill in some of those holes. I mean, look, Peacock was all about the Olympics this year.
Oh boy.
That's how they were going to launch. So they'll need content. I don't know, what their complete game plan is, but I'm sure they're thinking about it and figuring out, okay, what can we do pretty quickly when we can shoot? Everybody's just, we're all sort of on holding our breath, waiting to see what, the government's going to say, at least our local government, California, so that we can figure out how we can all start together and be smart about it. But, there's a lot of content that is there and ready to go. We have several projects ready to go once we're back. But, the fact of the matter is, on a lot of that stuff, it's talent driven. And the question will be, is when does talent feel comfortable enough to walk onto a stage?
I mean, that's huge. Yeah.
Or to, to go to a location. When is a neighborhood going to want us to go back into their neighborhood? I mean, when so I think there's going to be a lot of stage work, and I think there's going to be a shortage of stages because I think everybody's going to be sort of jumping on the stages.
Yeah. Hey, Frank, one last question. What have you learned about yourself in the last 6 weeks that surprises you the most?
That I can continue at a pace that may be a bit slower than my normal pace on my own, without, and when I say I'm on my own, I'm not on my own. I still have a full staff that's working. We have people budgeting things, and I still have an assistant who's helping me with my schedule and stuff. But I'm still, I'm doing it from this room every day. And I'm finding that I'm a little more, many years ago, and I'll use this as an example, and that's what I think I've become. Many years ago, I went to Italy when I was young, maybe in my 20s, and I was living in New York City at the time, and I remember watching this little Italian man who had these bushes that just went on for like a mile, and he'd have his hand thing, and he'd walk up to it, and he'd clip two things, and he'd step back and he'd look at it again. And then he'd wait, and then he'd go in and he'd clip two more things. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's making me crazy. Just go cut the thing already. What are you waiting on? And I came home to New York, and I remember, I think I was working at Ammirati and Puris at the time, and I get out of my house and I go to the train and I hear the train. And instinctually, I just start to run. I'm like, I gotta get there. I can't miss the train. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna take that little Italian man and I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna run. I walked down, I missed that train. Another train came in 5 minutes. I still got to work on time. I was still fine. That lasted about 2 weeks. But I find I'm more considerate now of my surroundings because it's my home and it's my wife. And I look at things differently. I clean up a little differently. I don't rush through things. So I'd say that's what I learned about myself, and I hope to bring that forward as I continue on.
Frank Scherma, thank you for your time.
Of course. Bob, always good to talk.
Well,
you too.
Stay healthy.
You and your family.
My sympathies to your wife, and I'll talk to you soon, my man. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.